Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel StampCat Stamps, where I share with you the things that I learned from my stamp collection. Last time we explored the historical site of Fort Garry, the iconic trading post that was here before Winnipeg was even called Winnipeg. Before the railway was built, this trading post was the center of activity for trading goods and getting the latest news. But something else important happened here, the Red River Resistance. And it was all because of this man, Louis Riel. A portrait of Louis Riel is shown on this stamp, issued by Canada Post in 1970. He was born in 1844 in the Red River settlement, now called Winnipeg. He was of Metis descent, which are a group of people descended from mixed French-European and Indigenous intermarriages. Louis was a good student and even attended seminary college in Montreal for a time. He worked there as a law clerk and then eventually returned home to the Red River in 1868. The following year, 1867, is a pretty important year for Canada's history. It's the year when Canada became an official country instead of a group of separate British colonies. Now, every year on July 1st, we celebrate Canada Day. This set of stamps issued for Canada Day in 1981 shows the growth of Canada throughout the years. When the Dominion of Canada first formed, our new country was made of 4 joined provinces: Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. Meanwhile, the fur trade business had been on the decline in Canada, and the Hudson Bay Company was looking to sell Rupert's Land. They were actually planning to sell it to the United States, but as a British-based company, the British government basically ordered them to sell it to the government of Canada instead. Wow, great! So this whole area is basically just going to be a giant expansion pack for Ontario, right? That's what the new government thought anyway. They sent over some land surveyors and a new governor to divide up their brand new property for all of their new homes and farms. But once again, the expectations for settling this area did not quite match reality, because there were already people living here, the European traders as well as Indigenous groups, particularly the Metis. When the surveyors showed up to divide their new property, they were blocked by a small militia group, an army led by Louis Riel and his Metis followers. With his respected family background and experience of education in Canada, Riel emerged as the leader and spokesperson of the people of the Red River. With around 400 followers, Riel seized control of Upper Fort Garry. Here they formed a provincial government and created a Metis list of rights that they wanted presented to the Canadian government. The list included things like rights to their land ownership, bilingual rights, and representation in Parliament. This picture from 1869 shows Louis Riel and his provisional government. They sent representatives to the Canadian government, and the result was the Manitoba Act. In 1870, Manitoba received recognition as a province, and the Métis people were granted language rights, land rights, and representation in government. Note that when it was first created, the little province of Manitoba was called the postage stamp province because of its size and shape. But as you can see, it's grown a lot bigger now. But while the representatives from Manitoba were negotiating with the Canadian government, more drama was unfolding at the Red River colony. A small pro-Canadian / anti-French, anti-Métis group was recruiting people and opposing the local government. Riel's Métis followers arrested them and imprisoned them inside Fort Garry. But some of the captives escaped, including an Irish immigrant from Ontario, Thomas Scott. Thomas Scott fled and met up with a group of sympathizers who were hiding outside of town. They went back planning to attack Fort Garry and free the other captives, but by the time they got there, the rest of the group had already been released. This militant group was again arrested and tried for insubordination, but Riel agreed to pardon most of them. However, this same guy Thomas Scott made it very clear that he was never going to cooperate and recognize the Riel government. He was apparently very belligerent and violent while in captivity, injuring himself and other guards. He made it clear that if they let him go, he was never going to stop opposing the Riel government. Riel felt that if he just kept on pardoning people, no one was going to take his authority seriously. So this time he had Thomas Scott sentenced to death by military tribunal and killed. The pro-Canadian groups in Ontario were outraged by this execution, seeing it as French Catholics killing an English Protestant. A warrant was issued for Riel's arrest, And when he heard that a military group was headed over to Manitoba from Ontario, he decided he'd better leave. He fled to the United States and stayed there for many years. Never again would he live in the very province that he had founded. 14 years later, in the Saskatchewan Valley, the Métis people were again having a conflict with the Canadian government seizing their lands and properties, and they asked Riel to return and help fight for them. Riel again joined their rebellion, but this time he was caught and sentenced to death by hanging. Today, Louis Riel is seen as a hero for defending the rights of Métis people. This stamp, issued in 2019, was unveiled at the Upper Fort Garry Gate by the president of the Manitoba Métis Federation. Manitobans also observe Louis Riel Day every year on the third Monday of February. You know, someone should have told Louis Riel that if you want someone to take your new government seriously, you should try designing a postage stamp. Huh? There's actually a mysterious stamp essay associated with the Riel Rebellion. A stamp essay is a proposed design for a stamp that has been submitted to a postal authority but not yet approved. The mysterious essay says Republic of Canada or République Canadienne and were thought to have been made for the Riel government during their rebellion, but was never completed as a stamp issue. Less than 10 essays are known to exist. The design is so curious. Who is this lady? It looks like she's wearing a Phrygian cap, almost like the Marianne stamps of France. The mysterious stamp essays have sold for big money in the past. Some that have been sold for $3,000 and even $7,000. That's almost as much as my car. I came across an article of an interview talking about the Louis Riel essay. This article was written in 1959, and honestly, I was a bit taken aback by the racist language. The article reads, "As we look back today, we see how some of the people of the West feared the Eastern government. A large part of the population of the West had been French Indian half-breeds. They believed they'd lose their rights and properties with the change in government. As a result of their fear, some of the half-breed people gathered around a man who led their rebellion. He was Louis Riel, a half-breed from the Northwest. People at the time said Riel was an intelligent man, but he was an irresponsible agitator. He had the power to express himself well, apparently, by the way he influenced people to follow him. This odd combination of intelligence and agitation, along with the discontent of the half-breed people, gave him strong support in his rebellion against the new government of Canada." Whoa there! That's quite a bit different than how we view Louis Riel today as the founding father of Manitoba. It really gives a glimpse of the kind of racial discrimination and adversity that he had to face and overcome to defend the rights of the Métis people. He refused to let the Dominion of Canada roll over him and his people, and stubbornly wedged his foot in the door with the government to demand recognition for Manitoba. Okay, that's it for today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed this series of exploring Winnipeg through postage stamps and a little bit of travel. I've certainly learned a lot about its history, its people, and the important role it played in the foundation of Manitoba. As always, stay safe and stay curious. Bye for now!